So,
Can I present my argument?
Are you okay with this going on the internet, Tim?
Yes, I'm okay with this going on the internet.
All right. What are you saying?
This is my argument. My argument that pi, any number past the 11th decimal point in pi is a total guess.
If we get more than 1,000 hits, somebody owes me a beer.
Okay, all right.
And if anybody who tells you that we can measure,
I think the 1,001th hit should buy us the 1,001th hit should buy each of us a natural light.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Pi, the number pi, right, is driven from actual measurements of the diameter of a circle and the circumference of that same circle and their relation to each other. And that all the mathematical models are based on that, not vice versa. And their argument is that on a piece of paper, without ever seeing a circle, human beings could derive pi, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, you derive it by, you have a theoretical circle.
Yes, based on
what? And that same
what?
theoretical circle has a theoretical diameter and a theoretical circumference and a theoretical area.
And how do you know the relation between the circumference and the diameter?
Geometry.
Where does the geometry come from? Direct measurement of circles. And it was astronomers, by studying the moon, that took it out to that point. Did you know that at the 11th decimal point on the whole Earth, that if you took the whole Earth's circumference down to the 11th decimal point, that would only be less than a millimeter?
A long time ago.
How could you have something that would measure that precisely?
Actually, probably a long time ago, somebody, more likely Pythagoras, did have a caliper, and they noticed a relation between different sized circles and different areas, and they started figuring out that, hey, there's a relationship between these things that we did measure. I bet there's a mathematical relationship that proves that all these things are related, and they figured out a mathematical relationship between them all.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is.
But once they did that, it kept the caliper thing, and they measured the circle with a measuring tape, and you go out in the street and you draw a circle with a piece of chalk, and you figure out how it kicked that out the window, and they realized that there is a mathematical relationship between the circumference, the radius, the area of a circle.
And if there's anybody out there in YouTube land if there's anybody out there in YouTube land who's ever heard of a series that you can use to reliably define pi out to whatever decimal point, or an equation that does not contain pi already that can do this thing for us, then send that in to us, because I really want to know about it, because these guys are nuts.
It's the standard equation for a circle. You solve it for pi, and you have an equation that equals pi.
Okay, I mean, you can use pi.
And you don't need any numbers in that equation that you measure from some circle.
With pi, you can use pi to discover, like, the 100th digit of pi, and you can do that.
Well, you laugh at him or laugh at us, because we're all effing nerds.
Well, this is going to be a funny video. Well, you said I could put it on YouTube. Tim said I could put it on YouTube, so it's all right.
Pi, 3.141517, something like that, right? Or maybe it's 1715. It's one or the other. The information contained in that came from somewhere. The equations you talk about that include that into them, but they can't solve for that. That's based on information that has been gathered by many, many people over arduous hours of measuring circular objects as big as they could make.
Somebody noticed that if you measure circular
with the best devices they could find.
Somebody noticed that they measured everything they measured their circular devices, and they noticed a relationship. So then they decided, let's simplify things. We'll say the circle has a radius of 1.
That's just the opposite of what we did before. Now you're dividing by pi. It's still using pi in the equation. You haven't discovered pi. You haven't calculated pi. You've just reorganized pi into that same equation, and you knew what it was through direct study, not math.
Once you find a relationship between this size circle and this size circle, and you use the discovered a relationship between these two size circles, and then you say, all right, we have a third circle whose radius is 1. With knowing the relationship between this circle and this circle, you can create an equation for a circle who has a radius of 1, and you can manipulate that equation to tell you what pi is.
Yeah, it's a model. You have something that works, and it works over and over and over and over. You build a model, and you say, this is the model, and we know that this can work on paper without the real objects. But we wouldn't be able to put it down on the paper without the real object of existing first. It's a chicken and an egg thing.
That's not true.
The knowledge didn't exist before us.
Yes, it did.
We found the knowledge.
A circle exists without you or me or anybody.
That's not knowledge. It's not knowledge till you know it.
It's not knowledge to you maybe, but it still is true. The model of a circle exists whether you know it or anybody knows it.
That is right. It exists all through the atmosphere and
it is
sun
what it is.
goes around something. We go around the sun. The moon goes around us.
But we don't need any of that.
Okay, actually, I just figured out what Tim's trying to say. Tim's saying that geographic, or not geographic, geology, or not geology, geometry. That's what I'm looking for. Geometric postulates are an opinion.
Is that what you're saying?
Are you
saying geometric postulates are an opinion?
Geometric postulates are based upon observations from
physical
manifestations.
No, whoever's watching the video, try saying geometric postulates.
There are
say it 3 times without screwing up.
There are some geometric postulates that are outside the realm of reality. You cannot measure these things, but they're
now, granted, Tim lives there, so he probably knows a little more about it than we do.
And some of those have real credibility, but pi is not one of them. Pi is one of the most simple geometric postulates. It goes back way, way, way far into the past before, these people are thinking about, and it's a direct measurement, and it's gotten better and better and better as devices have gotten better.
Do you know what a postulate is?
A postulate is something you propose.
That's not true.
And you propose a postulate.
No, you don't.
And then everybody around you says, you've established this thing that we're going to, argue over. And when we hash it out, whether that's true or not, in a million, billion, killion years beyond our reckoning, because you can't prove it or disprove it.
What? Prove what or disprove what?
About it. And you don't have to
What are you talking about?
You just have to accept it as part of that equation. Or whatever.
Tim,
it's a factor.
Tim, what you're trying to say is, if you take a pie, not the number pie, but the thing you bake in your oven,
right,
and you cut it in half.
Right.
You have 1 pie, you divide it by 2, and you get 2 pies. You're saying that is only possible, that is not exact. 2 is not an exact number, because it's only a function of how sharp and how exactly you cut that pie in the middle. And if you have a slightly say your knife is a little bit bent, the people way back 200 years ago when they were developing addition and subtraction, our addition and
there's
subtraction
difference between something
division
applied to the world and something the world has applied to us.
So
the circle was applied to us. We